Thanks for joining us here on the Salem Radio Network. Your host, Scott Jennings. I'm going to switch gears to the topic of parents who did the unthinkable. Went to a school board meeting and spoke their mind. Can you imagine someone going to a school board meeting and speaking their mind and exercising their First Amendment rights? Oh, the humanity. There was a press conference over in Washington, D.C. today. There's a group called Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. And this press conference was organized by Representative Ogles, and I think Representative Biggs was there. You guys remember this case from during the Biden years, the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland. If you were a parent, you went to a school board, they were after you. They were after you. Let's hear from Representative Biggs at this press conference today.
Today, we're gathered here to celebrate the vindication of these parents in standing up for the most fundamental obligation of a mom and dad. To every politician and bureaucrat who thought they could bully moms and dads into submission to the detriment of their children, you picked the wrong fight.
That's right.
Parents don't surrender their rights at the school doors. They don't answer to school boards. And they certainly don't take marching orders from a weaponized Department of Justice. President Trump has stood with these parents from day one, and we stand with him, and I stand with these parents. This movement is not about politics. It's about protecting our children and restoring sanity to our schools and our communities. Parents, not the government, are the ultimate authority in their child's life. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. You will hear stories today that will make your blood boil. Stories of intimidation, retaliation, and abuse of authority and power. We have learned, sadly, that when people get some power or think they have power, almost invariably they abuse it. And they sought to abuse it against parents of children. But you're going to also hear stories of courage. You'll hear the voices of Americans who refuse to back down, the ones who are leading the charge to take our country back, one school board at a time. I'm honored to stand with each of you today, and I thank God for the fire in your bellies and your hearts. And so we're going to hear a series of speakers telling their stories of what happened to them, what happened in their schools, what happened in their communities.
Our next guest here on the Scott Jennings Show is Sam Sorbo. Sam was at this press conference today. She is an education advocate, an author, a filmmaker. And Sam, we ran into each other down at the Turning Point USA event in Tampa this weekend. It was a delight to meet you there. And you were telling me about the press conference you were a part of today in Washington. First of all, welcome to the Scott Jennings Show. And tell us, what did you have to say to the people in Washington, D.C. today?
Well, first of all, it's an extreme honor to speak with you this way. I really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. What the message that I had for the public is we stand behind parents. We want parents reinstated as the primary drivers of their children's education. We reject Terry McAuliffe's statement that parents have no right to direct the education of their children. And we reject these school boards and the law enforcement that were used against these parents. And so we've compiled a dossier of over 40 parents who were harmed, almost irreparably harmed by these egregious actions of their school boards, their local law enforcement, even their city councils in some cases, simply for standing up for their children, simply for having a disagreement, a different opinion about the way that masks were being used or the way that the schools were being shut down. And instead of just being heard, it would have been easy for them to just hear the parents out and then perhaps do nothing. But instead, they had them arrested. They doxed them. They sent they sent people after them. They sent the law enforcement after them. They sent the FBI after them. And one thing that's really insidious in this is that the FBI was involved, but they offloaded all of their cases to local so that they could have a semblance of distance and actually be able to deny it, right? Plausible deniability. Merrick Garland himself testified before Congress, no, that's not at all what happened. We didn't characterize people as domestic terror. That's a misunderstanding, but it isn't. And in fact, a Jim Jordan commission found that in fact, these parents were harmed. They were unjustly terrorized themselves by their own governments, basically, and that this needs to be set straight.
What is the real issue here? I mean, let's go back in time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. We had COVID, we had concerns over curriculum, and you had parents who were really upset about the way their local schools were being operated. What is your only recourse? To go to the school board and talk to the school board about it. These, after all, in most places, I guess, are elected officials, and they're accountable to the public. So you show up in a public meeting, you speak your mind, and all of a sudden you find yourself the target of law enforcement. Did you have some of the parents that were targeted with you at the press conference today, Sam?
Absolutely. In fact, my partner is Kelly Walker. He was probably the most egregiously targeted, although there are several others who rise to the level of the aggression against him. But he has two other people who did the same thing, who were not targeted as heavily as he was and didn't suffer as heavily as he did. He lost his business. He had to move houses. He still has an arrest on his record, even though the arrest was thrown out. It still exists on his record. He can't seem to get it expunged. He lost $10,000 that they illegally confiscated from the sale of his homesteaded home in Arizona. I mean, this guy has been put through the ringer, and all he did was stand up for a few other parents who were worried about their children, one of whom was forced to remove a mask from the garbage can in the nurse's office and put it back on his face.
It's crazy. We went crazy in this country, didn't we? I mean, the masks drove people crazy, and it became less about protecting you from a virus, which they never really did, and more about compliance. And if you just had a question, if you just asked a simple question about this, look how you were treated in your local school. It's outrageous.
How dare you? And I love that you say that they work for us. They don't know that. They don't know that they are answerable to us. That's why I'm advocating for school boards to be made up entirely of parents. For the and by the way, the school boards are all union trained. That's a little bit of a conflict of interest. And so we really need to revamp the way we go about this. I will say that the way that Merrick Garland worked this, it shifted the whole tenor, the whole nature of the interaction between the school boards and the parents. And one of the things that I said at the press conference today was parents are the number one predictor of academic success. So whenever you see a situation where an administrator or a teacher or anybody from the school or anywhere, frankly, is coming between the parent and the child, is trying to isolate the parent and diminish their effectiveness, they are actually expressing their desire for the destruction of the child's education. They are clearly not for that child receiving an education. And that's a problem that we can't just talk about it and say, okay, now we're aware. We actually have to undo a lot of this stuff. We have to uphold the parents who have suffered unjustly. I'm asking President Trump, I call him parent in chief. I'm asking him to make parenting great again by bringing these parents out and honoring them. They were the good guys. They stood in front of their children and shielded them, or at least attempted to, and they suffered greatly. But not only that, Scott, remember, this was all intimidation tactics.
Right.
Because Kelly did nothing wrong. They just wanted him to be seen, to be arrested, so that other parents would sit down and shut up.
Yeah, that's
which is, of course, the mantra of the school.
This is the tactic of the left. We're going to make an example out of you. You stick your head up out of the ditch. We're going to make an example out of you. And the message is silence yourselves or we'll do it for you. I mean, that's they want the word to go out. Don't try us because we'll silence you. Now, you raised the issue that I want to talk about as we head towards the end of the segment here, Sam. And that's what we're going to do now. I mean, we know what happened. We know these parents were targeted. We know that accountability is needed. I see on the list here that Ed Martin, who is the director of the weaponization working group in the Trump administration, I think was supposed to be at the event today. Was Ed there? And what are you hearing from the administration? What can we actually do to get some accountability here and to set this right for the parents who were targeted under the Biden DOJ?
Yeah, exactly. It's sticky because the FBI outsourced all of their tactics to local law enforcement. But that said, we did have a sit-down meeting with Ed Martin, who is fully engaged in this. He unfortunately couldn't attend the press conference, but he is working on our behalf. We are working for that executive order. I think that this could be an enormous win for Trump to walk out and engage the American people by applauding parents and saying, we need our parents, we need them involved in our schools. They are the greatest predictors of their children's education. We are now 40th in the world. So clearly we're going in the wrong direction. We used to be number 1. We've dropped down to number 40. And I would have to say that part of it is the disengagement of parents in their children's education. So let's turn that around. And this could be just a great win for the administration, which is very pro-family. We've already seen that. They could just walk this one right through and change the whole tenor of the United States of America's schools.
Well, it seems to me that the Trump administration knows full well just what a failure the federal bureaucracy has been when it comes to its engagement in our overall education system. Obviously, you're talking about the failure of the DOJ bureaucracy when it comes to parents who are simply trying to engage on behalf of their children. But as we speak, the U.S. Department of Education is in the process of being dismantled by Secretary Linda McMahon after a successful ruling in the Supreme Court for the Trump administration. I think the president, my view is he and his people know, they inherently know that the federal bureaucracy has been a complete and total failure.
Yeah, but our parents need restitution. These people are still suffering. This persecution is still ongoing. It's not like it was. That's true because of COVID, and we're sort of out of COVID at this point. But don't think that it won't turn right around and come back and rear its ugly head the moment that it gets the opportunity. And the parents that we represent, they have been harmed, some of them devastatingly so. They need restitution. And so that's what we're working for. And the president can do a lot for that. So I'm very hopeful, frankly, that we do that. By the way, I love the fact that the Supreme Court ruled that he could fire 1,400 people. You know, in Chicago, they spent all their money on illegal aliens, and now they have to fire over 1,400 school individuals, teachers, including special ed teachers, that they have to fire because they misspent the money. And so when you juxtapose those two things, you have to thank President Trump for at least a little fiscal responsibility.
Absolutely. So we've got about a minute to go here, Sam. So you've met with Ed Martin, who is the representative from the Trump administration. You've got a pretty robust group here. It sounds like you've got some good support from several members of Congress, Ogles and Biggs and some others. Do you feel like you've got the political muscle that you need right now to get this over the line? Do you feel fortified? Do you feel supported out there in the conservative community?
Well, I'm an optimist. I know that we've gotten great response from the press conference. That was our big foray into the public eye. And so I am optimistic, but it's going to take a lot more. We are asking people to come alongside us. We are also asking parents. If you're one of the targeted parents, feel free to reach out. Go to realfreedomtalk.com. Tell us your story. We will represent you.
Yep.
We are working to honor those parents who took the slings and arrows on behalf of their children. Those are the real heroes.
That's Sam Sorbo. Thanks for joining us on the Scott Jennings Show. We'll be back right after this.